Everyone turned their heads. That was always the effect Vanessa had when she walked into a room. She was tall, elegant, and draped in diamonds that seemed to catch every flicker of light. Tonight, her dress was a shimmering silver gown that hugged her body like it had been poured onto her skin. The slit ran daringly high, revealing just enough leg to stop conversations mid-sentence. She knew she was a showstopper, because she had crafted herself into one. But tonight felt different. Tonight wasn't just another night of cocktails and whispers. Tonight, she wasn't alone. On her arm was Charles Harrington, one of the city's most untouchable billionaires. A man so powerful that CEOs bowed their heads in his presence, and entire industries shifted when he spoke. His wealth wasn't loud or flashy. He didn't need it to be. His confidence, his reputation, and his quiet dominance made him the most sought-after man in the room. And Vanessa had him. The crowd stirred like a wave crashing against the shore as they entered. The grand ballroom itself was breathtaking. Golden chandeliers dripping with crystals, champagne glasses stacked into towers, and a string quartet filling the air with notes so delicate they seemed to float. This wasn't just a party. It was the event of the year, a gathering of the wealthiest, most influential people in the city. Politicians, CEOs, heirs, investors, everyone who mattered was here. Vanessa held her chin high, smiling gracefully as Charles introduced her to a cluster of dignitaries. Outwardly, she looked the part of a queen. She leaned into his arm, laughed at the right moments, and dazzled with her beauty. But inside something was wrong. As her eyes darted across the ballroom, she felt her chest tighten. A cold shiver ran down her spine, even though the room was warm with candlelight. She had been to parties like this before, many times, in fact. But tonight, the faces around her weren't strangers. They were familiar. Too familiar. Across the room, she spotted a hedge fund manager she once dated. Standing by the bar was a tech entrepreneur she had spent a summer with. By the staircase, a luxury hotel owner who had flown her to Paris. Her eyes kept scanning, and with each familiar face, the weight of recognition crushed her composure. And then the realization struck like a dagger. This wasn't just a party of strangers. This was a gathering of the very men she had once charmed, seduced, and discarded. Her heart pounded. Her smile wavered. She gripped Charles's arm tighter, as if holding on to him could hide the storm rising inside her. For the first time in years, Vanessa felt fear. Not the fear of being poor again, not the fear of rejection, but the fear of being exposed. Because in this glittering ballroom, beneath the crystal lights and polished laughter, almost every man in the room held a secret about her. And if Charles discovered the truth, her carefully built empire of beauty and lies would collapse in an instant. Vanessa wasn't born into luxury. No one in her small hometown would have ever guessed that one day she would walk into ballrooms filled with billionaires. She grew up in a cramped apartment above a laundromat, raised by a mother who worked 2 jobs and a father who was never there. Money was always short. Dinner was often canned soup, and birthdays passed with little more than a hug. By the time Vanessa turned 18, she was beautiful, too beautiful for her own circumstances. Her long black hair, striking green eyes, and perfect smile made heads turn everywhere she went. But beauty, she quickly learned, didn't pay rent. At first, she worked as a waitress in a fancy restaurant downtown. That was where she began to understand her gift. Men in expensive suits would come in, tired and frustrated from their long days of business deals. She noticed how their moods shifted when she leaned in close, laughed at their jokes, or simply remembered their favorite drink. The tips were bigger, the attention longer, and soon she realized something important. Men with money weren't just powerful, they were lonely. And loneliness, she discovered, was her ticket out of poverty. It started small. A wealthy lawyer asked her out, showering her with expensive dinners and handbags. When that ended, a real estate developer stepped in. He whisked her away on trips, dressed her in designer clothes, and told her she deserved the world. Vanessa told herself it was harmless. She was just dating, just surviving. But deep down, she knew she was climbing. Each man was richer, more powerful than the last. Love? That was never part of the equation. Vanessa convinced herself that what she was doing was practical, even smart. Why settle for a struggling boyfriend when she could secure her future with someone who could give her everything? But the problem with climbing ladders built on lies is that eventually, someone notices the trail you leave behind. Vanessa's relationships never ended cleanly. Some men felt used, some embarrassed, some angry. A few laughed it off, knowing they weren't the only ones, but others carried grudges. And those grudges had followed her. Standing in the glittering ballroom now, surrounded by chandeliers and soft music, Vanessa suddenly realized where she was. This wasn't just a party. This was a gathering of the city's elite, the same elite she had spent years moving through like stepping stones. Her stomach twisted. She could almost hear the echoes of her past. The lawyer who once accused her of being a gold digger. The hotel heir who cried when she left him. The investor who caught her texting another man while on a yacht in the Caribbean. Each memory surfaced like a ghost, and each ghost seemed to be staring at her from across the room. Vanessa tightened her grip on Charles's arm, smiling wide to hide the panic burning inside her. But her mind kept racing. She had built her new life carefully, making sure Charles never heard whispers of her past. He believed she was different from the other women who threw themselves at him. He thought she was elegant, refined, and pure. But tonight, all her secrets stood in the same room, and the walls of her carefully constructed life were closing in fast. The music swelled, violins filling the golden hall, but Vanessa's ears caught something far sharper than melody, whispers. At first, she thought it was just her imagination. But then she noticed the glances, those quick sideways looks from men she knew far too well. Their smirks, their quiet chuckles behind raised champagne glasses. The whispers grew louder in her mind, like bees buzzing in a jar. "Isn't that Vanessa?" One man murmured near the bar. "She was with me 2 summers ago," another replied, barely hiding his grin. "Funny," said a third. "I thought she was with me." Vanessa's heart pounded. She tried to drown it out, to focus on Charles's voice as he introduced her to senators and CEOs. He was so proud, so confident, his hand resting lightly on her back as though she was his most valuable treasure. To him, she was a dazzling jewel he wanted the world to see. But to them, the men who knew her truth, she was nothing but a shared secret. As the introductions continued, Vanessa felt the ballroom closing in around her. Every laugh felt sharper. Every smile seemed mocking. Her palms grew damp, and she tightened her grip on Charles's arm until her knuckles turned white. Then, as though fate was determined to destroy her, she locked eyes with him. Across the room, standing tall and smug with a glass of whiskey in his hand, was Gregory Stone, the real estate mogul. Her blood ran cold. Gregory wasn't just another fling. He had been serious about her once. He had promised her a penthouse, whispered about marriage, and even taken her to meet his mother. For a moment, Vanessa thought she had finally secured the future she'd always dreamed of. But Gregory had caught her flirting with another man at a charity gala. The humiliation had burned him so deeply that his admiration turned into hatred. Their breakup wasn't just messy, it was explosive. He told her she was a fraud, that he would never forgive her, and that one day, the mask she wore would be ripped away. And now here he was. Their eyes locked across the glittering ballroom. Gregory's lips curled into a slow, deliberate smile. He raised his glass, not in greeting but in challenge. Vanessa's stomach twisted. She prayed he would stay quiet, that the music and chatter would drown out the storm threatening to break. But Gregory had waited for this moment too long. He took a step forward, his voice carrying effortlessly across the room. "Vanessa, long time, no see." The words sliced through the air like a blade. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. The string quartet faltered mid-note. Charles blinked in confusion, glancing between Gregory and Vanessa. "You know each other?" he asked. The silence was suffocating. Vanessa forced a tight smile, her voice trembling. "Oh, Gregory, what a surprise." But deep down, she knew this wasn't a surprise at all. This was the past catching up, louder, sharper, and in front of everyone. The moment Gregory's voice rang out, the air inside the ballroom changed. What had once been elegant chatter now felt like a silent court, and Vanessa was the defendant on trial. She tried to steady her breath, but it was too late. Gregory strode across the floor with the confidence of a man about to deliver a punchline. His eyes gleamed with satisfaction, the kind only revenge could give. "Oh, come now, Vanessa," Gregory said loudly enough for the entire crowd to hear. "Don't act like we're strangers. After all, you used to call me every night, remember?" A ripple of laughter swept across the room. People leaned in closer, eager for the show. Vanessa's cheeks burned. She forced out a laugh, though her throat felt like it was closing. Gregory, you must be mistaken. But before she could finish, another voice cut in. No, he's not mistaken. I remember her too. It was Anthony Vega, the young tech CEO, smirking as he sipped his champagne. She used to stay in my penthouse. I still have her perfume lingering on the sheets. The crowd gasped, half in shock, half in delight. And then another voice. She told me I was the only one, said Richard Lane, a hedge fund manager, shaking his head as if amused by his own foolishness. Same here, muttered a hotel heir, his tone bitter. One by one, the men stepped forward, their voices overlapping, their memories stacking like bricks in a wall that was quickly closing in on Vanessa. Some sounded smug, others resentful, but all were united in one thing: exposing her. Charles's hand, once firm on her back, slipped away. His jaw tightened as his eyes darted between the men and the woman standing beside him. Vanessa panicked. Charles, listen to me. It's not what it looks like. Her voice cracked, desperation leaking into every word. Gregory let out a cold laugh. Oh, it's exactly what it looks like. She's been through half this room, Charles. And the other half probably just didn't pay enough. The laughter that followed was cruel. Champagne glasses clinked, whispers turned into open chatter, and Vanessa's worst nightmare unfolded in real time. Her entire act, the poise, the elegance, the illusion of being Charles's perfect partner, was gone. She was no longer the jewel on his arm. She was a spectacle, a scandal, a punchline. Charles's voice finally cut through the noise. Calm, but edged with steel. Vanessa, tell me the truth. Is any of this real? Or was I just next? Her lips trembled. She wanted to deny it, to spin a story so convincing it would pull him back to her side. But the faces around her, the smirks, the knowing looks, they were undeniable. The truth was already out. She lowered her eyes. Charles, I never meant for you to find out like this. Gasps. Murmurs. And in that moment, Vanessa realized it wasn't just her lies that had unraveled. It was her entire identity. The ballroom was silent, yet the weight of 100 eyes pressed down on Vanessa like iron chains. She stood frozen, her glittering gown suddenly feeling heavy, suffocating. Charles's words, sharp and steady, hung in the air. Vanessa, was I just next? Her throat tightened. She wanted to scream no, to fall to her knees, to beg him to believe she was different now. But her lips refused to move, and her silence said more than any excuse ever could. Finally, her voice cracked through the stillness. Yes, but it was before you, Charles. I swear I've changed. I only want you. Her words trembled, fragile and desperate, but they landed like stones in a pond, causing only ripples of pity and disdain. Charles's expression hardened. He shook his head slowly, almost sadly, as if mourning the illusion he had lost. Vanessa, he said, his tone calm but final, you didn't come here for me. You came for what I represent. Wealth, status, power. You thought you could erase your past by standing at my side. But the truth is, money can buy you a ticket into this room, but it can't buy you respect. He set his champagne glass on a passing tray, turned, and walked away. No dramatic gestures, no anger, just cold finality. The crowd watched him leave, and then their eyes returned to Vanessa. Some smirked openly. Others whispered behind manicured hands. A few women shook their heads knowingly, as if they had always suspected. The humiliation hit her in waves. For years, she had chased diamonds, penthouses, and private jets. She had told herself it was survival, that she deserved luxury after a life of struggle. But here, under the chandeliers, surrounded by the men who once believed her lies, she realized the truth. She had built her empire on quicksand. Every man she'd used now stood as a witness to her downfall. Every smile she'd faked, every promise she'd broken, it had all led to this moment. Her legs trembled. Her eyes burned. She wanted to scream, to fight back, to curse them all for exposing her. But no words came, only silence. With trembling hands, Vanessa turned toward the exit. No one stopped her. No one called after her. She slipped through the grand doors quietly, like a shadow disappearing into the night. Outside, the cold air bit at her skin. The glittering lights of the ballroom still spilled through the windows, but she was no longer part of that world. She stood on the marble steps alone, stripped of the illusion she had carried for so long. For the first time in years, Vanessa felt small, smaller than the girl who once lived above the laundromat. Because at least back then, she still had hope. Now, all she had was the echo of Charles's words. Money had opened doors for her, yes. But respect, trust, love, those were things no amount of diamonds could buy. And in chasing wealth, Vanessa had lost the only thing she truly needed, herself.